What's happening, guys? Welcome into another boxing breakdown and prediction show for this weekend's heavyweight clash between former unified champ Andy Ruiz Jr. and former title challenger Chris Arreola, and what should be a good old-fashioned Mexican-style war on Saturday night over in California. So let's get into it now. It's been almost 2 years since Chris Arreola fought Adam Kownacki in Brooklyn. Kownacki, huge pre-fight favourite in that one, but Arreola made him work hard in that fight, pushing him back in spots and going the distance. And a lot of people were honestly surprised by that result, as they no doubt expected Kownacki to simply blow Arreola out. For whatever reason, I can't fathom, Kownacki was held in seriously high regard prior to that fight. He has an absolutely massive Polish following over in Chicago and New York. And honestly, I never quite got the hype personally. I was in Brooklyn when he fought Charles Martin back in 2018 on the undercard of that Danny Garcia and Sean Porter fight. And he looked, as he usually looked to me, slow, lethargic. He was fairly obvious, winding up on those looping punches as well. So I thought Martin won a large portion of that fight as well. And Kownacki was found out not long after in his subsequent fight after Arreola against Robert Elenius, getting stopped in 4 rounds. So it took a lot of the sheen of what Arreola managed to accomplish in that fight and taking Kownacki the distance off him when Kownacki lost. So Andy Ruiz had his own ups and downs late, obviously, too, mainly on the weigh-in scale, as he became unified champion and then lost it all inside of 6 months to Anthony Joshua. But his change over to Canelo's gym and trainer Eddie Reynoso in particular definitely seems to have paid dividends for him, as he comes into this fight looking in far superior shape than he did for his December 2019 loss to Anthony Joshua. Now, Andy Ruiz looks like a man on an absolute mission right now to prove he's back in the heavyweight picture after basically capitulating his titles back to Anthony Joshua in that second fight. Didn't even train for it. So he needs to be primed and focused for this fight on Saturday night if he's to make a statement to the division and demand those big fights. Chris Arreola is a fighter who likes to walk forward and pressure fighters. That's who he is. But that's going to be a huge mistake in this fight, because he's going to find a guy in Andy Ruiz who doesn't back up, won't concede ground here on Saturday night. Anthony Joshua found that out to his cost also in their first fight. And very likely Chris Arreola will here as well. Even in Arreola's prime, his defense was pretty poor, and opposing fighters were often content to back up and let him walk on the punches as they were going backwards. Vitaly Klitschko boxed off the back foot in their fight, softening him up in there with a pile driver left jab of his. And Deontay Wilder too, in their fight, spent an awful lot of the early portion of his fight against Arreola clowning around. He was messing around in there, playing to the crowd. He famously swung his hips around as well, holding Areola's head. And he's generally a slow starter as it is. But that's certainly not what Arreola is going to face on Saturday. Andy Ruiz is going to be in his grill from the opening bell. That's the way he fights too. And I can honestly see only one way this ends on Saturday night, and that's in an Andy Ruiz stoppage here. Chris Arreola will no doubt do what he usually does. He'll walk forward, look to exchange, look to press that body attack early. Only he's going to find a guy, as we said, in Andy Ruiz, who absolutely thrives in the pocket and has the fastest hands in the heavyweight division, bar none. I think Andy Ruiz will start teeing off on Arreola early in this one, and he'll simply overwhelm him with a ton of volume and hard precision shots up top. And with neither man looking to back up here and give ground, plus that extra build-up of an all-Mexican rivalry in this one, I think this one ends early on Saturday night. I'm taking Andy Ruiz Jr. rounds 1 to 6 at plus 110 as the play for Saturday night, as I expect this one to end early and what should be a blowout statement victory for Andy Ruiz Jr. here. Take Andy Ruiz Jr. rounds 1 to 6 plus 110 as your 2% free play for Saturday night. Now, just to quickly mention other fights taking place this weekend. Over in London, Derek Chisora takes on Joseph Parker in another huge heavyweight clash over on DAZN. We have a 5% max boxing play up on that card. Actually, our first 5% step out of the entire year. So make sure and join us for that. That'll wrap things up for this edition of the Boxing Prediction Show. As always, leave us your thoughts. And you can also catch me over on Twitter at the SportsWolf83 and at my handicapper page, Kevin Dolan, over at WagerTalk. We'll be back next week for what will no doubt be one of the biggest fights of the year, as Canelo Alvarez takes on Billy Joe Saunders in the huge unification matchup up at super middleweight. So make sure and join us for that. And as always, thanks for listening. Till next time, Slán